While on Bajor in the city of Hathon, we can stop by the Starfleet outpost along the western edge of the map. In the plaza around this area stands a great tree, almost as old as the city itself, from a time before Hathon was as expansive as it is now. Under the tree sits a Bajoran civilian who explains the importance of this location to her and her desire to see it preserved for future generations. It's after concluding our conversation with her that we notice a fairly frantic engineering cadet named Samus trying to explain something to his colleagues. Approaching, we can ask him what the problem is, and so begins the mission, Standoff. Cadet Samus here was repairing a communications subsystem and intercepted a Cardassian transmission from the orbit of Bajor, but buried within the transmission was a distress call. He was wondering who he should report this to when we happened by. Our reward for sorting this out is a diplomacy commendation. That would look good on our personnel file, wouldn't it? I mean, not that we would need such a reward to motivate us to do the right thing. Returning to orbit, we encounter 4 Cardassian ships, 3 Gaylor class and a Keldon. The 3 smaller ships look to be squaring off against the Keldon class. Perhaps we should hail them to see what's going on, and as a firm reminder that they are in orbit of a Federation world deep in Federation space. Hostilities will not be tolerated.
How dare you? I've proven my loyalty time and time again. The Battle of Korra 2, the assault on the Trueway base at a Dark Prime. By the Spirit, Surjan, I'm the one who recommended your promotion. If you do not back down and rescind your accusations, I will have no choice but to open fire. Even if you manage to kill me and my crew, I will die knowing I am fighting for Cardassia.
There is no call for theatrics or bravado, Galanthos. The entire Civil Defense Force knows you and what you have done. I myself am especially heartbroken considering our personal history, but my disgust for what you've become is why I asked for this detail. How could you betray your own all this time? How could you join the true way?
Uh-oh, tensions sound high.
Do you honestly believe I could betray my family? My people? Why can't you see this as a plot to divide us? To destroy us from within?
Things are escalating between these two sides, it seems. We should step in before things get any worse. We don't want another Cardassian battle in orbit of Bajor. Opening comms, we can say as much to the two sides, demanding they stand down.
Well timed, Captain. You can be the official witness to the destruction of a former hero of the Cardassian Civil Defense Force.
Yeah, that's not going to happen on my watch. To punctuate the point, we're going to put the Dunkirk between these two vessels.
Captain, I am not guilty. The True Way have somehow convinced the Defense Force that I'm actually one of their agents. And Captain Surjan is ready to destroy my entire crew over this disinformation. I swear I can prove my innocence, but he won't give me the chance. Please, you've got to talk some sense into him. If he won't give me a chance to prove myself, I'll be forced to defend my honor. They may take me out, but not before I've killed Surjan.
Do you see, Captain? How can you trust a man so ready to kill those he claims to care about?
Antos certainly isn't helping his case with his aggressive posturing, but Surjan's not listening either. Before the photons start flying, let's see if we can mediate this dispute. We offer both captains the chance to meet on the Dunkirk, neutral ground, to hear their cases.
Absolutely. I'll beam over immediately.
And why should I agree to this?
To avoid a firefight. Because you may be able to defeat Antos, but if you open fire, you'll be dealing with both of us, and that's not a battle you can win.
While I'm not sure you can back up your threat, truth be told, I still want to believe Antos is innocent. Very well, I will beam over to your vessel and we can find the truth. Although honestly I fail to see how this will be anything more than my word against his.
Okay, the situation is under control. I feel like I should get the axe on our palm leaf for that. So, Surjan claims that Antos is a traitor, and the Gul denies that. I'm sensing history between these two captains, and with no prior knowledge of the situation, perhaps we can offer an unbiased stance. Our security chief, Tarsi, has posted guards at the entrance to the conference room, just in case, and she will be monitoring the situation. We can see Gul Antos staring out the window across space to his ship. Alone with his back to the room, clearly he doesn't expect trouble, though he could probably hear anyone approach. Gul Surjan has brought 2 officers with him and studies Antos from afar, ready to cart him away perhaps? Clearly no one has spoken yet.
I hope you can prove his innocence.
Well, let's start with what exactly is Surjan accusing Antos of?
Based on recent information, I have reason to believe Antos has agreed to join the True Way. The knowledge and tactical ability that Antos has could be invaluable to the True Way. He could be their greatest weapon.
Most of the Cardassian True Way operatives are indeed ex-military personnel, disillusioned with Garrick's governmental reforms, but they shifted loyalties years ago. A current commander with up-to-date tactical intel and access? Yeah, that would be a problem. Still, Antos denies these accusations vehemently. So let's ask if there's anyone in the Cardassian Civil Defense Force who would like to implicate him.
It is possible. He moved quickly through the ranks and has been regarded as something of a modern hero amongst our people. Even though no one would admit it, that sort of fame and success is bound to generate some animosity, especially among my people. Cardassians value those in authority, but we tend to distrust them. But if you're asking if I think anyone in the CDF would frame him, I'd have to say no. The alternative is unthinkable.
So what's your history with Antos?
He has been a friend and a mentor for as long as I can remember. In fact, it was his recommendation that got me my command.
Ah, this explains the animosity between these two. Surjan's confliction between anger at Antos and the hope that he is innocent. We even heard Surjan request this detail.
Of course I did. Honor demands it.
Uh-huh. And
if there's any chance he might be innocent, I have to help find it. I owe him that much.
Okay, so it seems we've broken through to Surjan. His history with Antos doesn't seem relevant right now to the case, but now he may be more amenable. Let's get Gul Antos' side of events before we recap what we know. He hasn't moved a muscle since he's come here. He's put on a stoic face, but I think he's nervous, staring out the window, trying to see the future.
Whoever did this will pay. With their lives.
Antos, just so we're all on the same page, of what are you being accused?
Treason. Information has spread throughout the Cardassian Civil Defense Force that I have joined the True Way. There are also rumours that once I defect, I will lead the charge against my own people.
Well, that story matches up, though Gul Antos seems genuine. He shares the Cardassian mentality of the people come first at whatever the cost. But it's the whatever the cost part that's led to trouble in Cardassia's past. Well, Surjan was unaware or unwilling to implicate anyone in the CDF in an attempt to frame Antos, but let's see if he can think of anyone that would want to implicate him.
None that I know of. At least not yet. If this information gets out and people believe it, the better question would be whether or not I have any friends left in the Civil Defense Force.
Huh. Surjan mentioned you had history. What is it?
I have been his captain and friend for years. He was recently given command of his own ship based on my recommendation. I considered him to be one of my closest friends, and a person that I would trust with my life.
It's clear they both feel betrayed by the other. I heard Surjan say he requested this detail.
So did I. Maybe Surjan feels there might be a chance I'm innocent, and he wanted to make sure I had a chance to prove it. Any other captain would have just attacked me on sight. Either that, or he believes the accusations and wanted the chance to kill me himself. Since I was his mentor and the one who sponsored his promotion, my treason could do brutal and permanent damage to his career if he did not react with the proper vehemence.
Probably a mix of both, but enough beating around the bush. Did you do it?
Never, never in a million years would I join those murderers. I am innocent.
Well, I didn't expect him to suddenly change his tune when asked, but it helps to hear the conviction in his voice. We've established that there is an emotional undercurrent here that may cloud the facts. We need to return to Surjan and ask him if he thinks the allegations are true to proceed the mission.
Honestly, I don't know what to believe. I want to believe he is innocent, but the evidence is compelling.
What evidence?
There are 3 things that make me believe he is guilty. First, a transmission was intercepted from him to the True Way, in which he revealed that he was ready to work for them. Second, undisclosed True Way technology was found in his private quarters. Third, and most damning, We have a video of him killing a guard to free a True-Way prisoner. I can give you access to each piece of evidence if you'd like to examine them. We've gone through it, perhaps you'll be able to catch something we missed.
So much for my word against his. We have evidence to review, which Temet has collated on the terminal in the conference room, so let's look this over. Neither Gul, Antos or Surgeon suspects foul play from inside the CDF, but there's no proof there wasn't either. Antos's position and years of experience have made him a respected and valuable commander in the Defence Force, a mentor to many, including Surgeon. Therefore, Gul Surgeon has offered to be the one to bring him in. The funny thing is, both of these comrades know each other well enough to see Surgeon's motivations here. He has to exonerate himself from the implication, or be there to help his friend. I get the feeling that Antos is far too proud to even entertain the notion that he is a traitor, but all his aggressive, adamant posturing is doing is stoking the fires of Surgeon's frustration. Before we intervened, would it have really come to blows? Well, I hope not. Not when those blows are photon torpedoes with a yield of 64.4 megatons. We activate the analysis console to examine the 3 pieces of evidence Surgeon provided us with. Let's look at the strange device found in Antos's quarters. A small sphere made from an unknown synthetic compound, microporous shell that suggests the ability to release gas. I can see the suspicion. We can run a comparison to known True-Way weapons, maybe it's a gas grenade or some such, but there are no results, no matches. We activate containment and security protocols just in case, and the device remains inert. Thankfully, if it does have sensors for detonation, security containment is not what triggers it. We'll leave the analysis there, as trying to remove the membrane could damage it or cause it to trigger. Instead, let's review another piece of evidence, the transmission conversation Antos supposedly sent, confirming his allegiance.
Antos here. Barkad, I have some news. It looks like after all these years, you are right. I've been a fool to side with the CDF, and I can only hope you'll be able to forgive me.
Sounds like Antos.
Forget the past, Antos. The important thing is you're ready to fight for the one true cause. I can get you in touch with the proper people, but on one condition. To prove your new allegiance, you'll be asked to use your knowledge of the CDF to lead an attack against them.
I understand and will do as you ask.
Excellent! We will soon be in touch.
Well, the transmissions can be faked. The Cardassians never found any signs of alteration, but maybe our systems are more advanced. No alterations after being sent, and the origin was a Kelden-class cruiser, like the one captained by Gul Antos. It doesn't look good, but now we have a new name in the mix, Barkad, a True-Way contact and Antos's potential accomplice in an attack against his former colleagues. Let's familiar ourselves with the players here, shall we? Our officers will update the research terminal with relevant data as we uncover it. For now, we can research Antos and Surgeon, so we'll start with the accused. Antos is considered a veteran of the Defence Force, the CDF, and much of his career has been levelled against True-Way operations. Cited 6 times for bravery, awarded the Jevonite Cross of Valour, he's known for mentoring many up-and-coming officers, and has a wife and 3 daughters on Cardassia Prime. Oh my. Had a wife and 3 daughters. They were killed in a True-Way attack in Lucarian City. Yeah, this really doesn't fit the profile of a True-Way sympathiser. It goes a long way to explaining why Antos finds this whole notion to be ridiculous. But unfortunately for him, evidence speaks louder than conviction. Speaking of, Antos, have you seen this transmission?
It sounds like my voice, and of course I recognize Barkad, but I never sent this transmission. How could they think I'd work with that worm? I've arrested him dozens of times, but he is always released in short order. Except, of course, this most recent arrest. He's bound for a Cardassian prison as we speak, and I was quite pleased to have finally put an end to his crimes. But more importantly, this message did not come from my ship, and I can prove it.
So Barkad is an old adversary of Gul Antos, but how can you debunk this transmission?
I have commanded this ship for a very long time, and has been in many battles. Over the years, many key components have been repaired or replaced. Of everything that's come and gone, one of the few original systems still on board is the navigational deflector. After a while, that deflector became sort of a good luck charm for me and my crew, and we've taken to keep it in working order. Besides the sentimental value, it also creates a distinctive subsonic hum that makes its way into every transmission that comes from my ship. Obviously it can't be heard, but anyone who spent time aboard knows that it's there. If you scan for subsonic frequencies in the transmission, you'll find a distinct and constant hum at 4 cycles per second. As any Cardassian engineer knows, this is directly in line with the prototype version of the navigational deflector which is still used in my vessel. These particular deflectors are incredibly rare these days, but I don't believe the person who sent the fake message would even know to add the subsonic hum to the transmission. And if the CDF is claiming this transmission came from my ship, this should disprove that.
As we've seen from his service record, he has indeed been in active combat many times, enough times to get 6 citations and a medal. As a noted veteran, his Keldan vessel is probably one of the oldest in the fleet. He says everything has been replaced except for the original deflector dish, a model no longer used in current Keldan designs, that produces a 4 Hz hum in the background. If the transmission was from his ship, then that hum would be present. I can see the logic in that. And would you look at that? It's not there. Temet is quick to confirm our findings, but points out that all it proves is that it wasn't sent from his ship. Still, it paints the evidence as suspect. An old captain saved by his old ship. 1 down. Let's move to investigate this suspicious tech that was found, this porous sphere. We'll start by asking Surgeon how it was acquired.
It is policy to report and catalogue any technology acquired during a mission. We don't know exactly what the item does, but preliminary analysis indicates that it could be a weapon.
It does seem to be constructed to release some form of gas, so it's wise to be cautious. But could Antos simply have forgotten to log it?
Well, yes, it can happen, and in truth it wouldn't usually be an issue. There have been many personal souvenirs that have never been reported to command. However, in conjunction with everything else that has happened, you can see where the concern comes from. Keep in mind that we do not know what the item does or where he acquired it.
Alright, so on its own, not enough to be an issue. Antos might have forgotten to log it, or even be unaware of its purpose. The next step then is to quiz Antos on the device. So, some true-way tech was found in your room.
And every member of the CDF keeps trinkets from missions. Search any officer's quarters and you will find similar mementos.
I mean, probably true, but that doesn't really help. What is it?
I don't know. To be honest, I forgot I even had it. If it helps, I picked it up on Ravik 6.
Okay, it's a start, I guess, but no one seems to know what this sphere is. Not Antos, if he's telling the truth. Surgeon has already analysed it, and our findings so far corroborate the CDF's. Ravik 6 though, perhaps that can get us somewhere. Moving to the research terminal, we can begin to request information on Ravik 6. Starting with the basic data, it's an M-class world, oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, 47,000 colonists, big exports of agriculture and leatherworks, and similar to a pre-industrial Cardassia. Population are the shark species. So let's look at their cultural index. The shark have chosen to remain largely detached from modern technology in most aspects of their lives. The primary exception to this rule is devices that can be used to enhance agriculture. In this regard, the shark are rumoured to have made discoveries that surpass modern Federation farming techniques. The shark have developed methods to counteract dwindling nutrient supplies in the soil. This downturn is commonly attributed to excessive visitation by alien races. There is a belief amongst the shark that visitors have brought bacteria to their world that the environment could not handle. As a result, outsiders are generally shunned or greeted with open hostility. Ooh. There have been 32 recorded attacks against off-world visitors. In 3 years, no less. Perhaps we won't go and visit there then. So they export kenai milk, which comes from a bovine-like creature called a kenai, and that's also likely the origin of their leather as well. Following the chains, we can then research the kenai. What with the nutrient-damaged soil, the shark have developed a method of refertilising the soil and policing the mass-produced kenai dung. They spray the dung with a substance that hardens into a microporous shell. Oh no. Exposure to rainwater reveals this shell, and gradually the contents are slowly released as harmless trace gases and further into nutrient-rich fertilizer. Could the porous sphere we found be cow dung? If so, we can test it by exposing it to water and seeing if it dissolves. Before we do that, there's one last file we can look at, and that's historical conflicts. The Shark are a peaceful race. Well, apparently, as long as you don't overstay your welcome. The True Way have attempted to establish a base on Ravek 6 no less than 3 times. And the most recent attack was stopped by the Cardassian Civil Defense Force led by Gul Antos. So Antos foiled a True Way incursion on Ravek 6, found a curious silver orb in the aftermath, and brought it to his quarters on the Keldon as a curiosity. Well, here goes nothing. We can now expose the device to water. The membrane has been destroyed, and gases have been emitted into the testing chamber. Just to be safe, we can run an analysis on the released gases, and the computer detects methane, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen in quantities that match waste gases from a Ravek Kenai or an Earth cow. Well, shit. Temet helpfully chimes in, saying it could still be considered a weapon. Really, Temet? Fart joke. Nonetheless, it means that this orb was never anything dangerous, nor a True Way weapon. So let's set about analysing this video.
This is the most disturbing of all the evidence. You can clearly see Antos shoot and kill a guard who was transporting a True Way prisoner.
And I assume the video was checked for tampering?
Of course, there is an encrypted timecode in the security footage that would be impossible to recreate. There's no doubt what you're seeing is exactly what was originally recorded.
Alright, so Surgeon says the video is unaltered, but let's take this opportunity to look into Gul's Surgeon and see how trustworthy he may be. He's a recent captain, or Gul as they are known in Cardassia. He was originally an engineer before mentoring under Antos and transferring to command. From the Atbar system, his parents were refugees from the Dominion War. He is also a noted artist whose carvings have been displayed on Bajor, Cardassia and Andoria. Quite an accomplishment. Andoria's institutions are rather selective in their artistic pursuits. Well, that doesn't really offer us any insight into his personal motivations except what Antos and Surgeon himself have stated. Still, maybe if we get this mess sorted out, we could perhaps commission some work, Surgeon? Eh? No, it's not the time for that. That was inappropriate. Instead, let's see what Antos makes of this damning footage. Do you recognise this video?
No, should I? Wait, that looks like Barkhad. Is he? How did... That isn't me. I would never kill one of our own guards, and certainly never help to free Barkhad. I hadn't heard that he'd even been freed. They think I'm the one who... It has to be one of Barkhad's friends in the True Way. I don't care what the video shows, this was not me.
Barkhad's name pops up again. Antos seemed very pleased with himself when his name first came up. Antos had finally been able to capture the True Way operative after years of watching him escape through legality and a lack of evidence. Now Barkhad was the prisoner that Antos was accused of freeing. Though this evidence seems unaltered, Antos's shocked response suggests that he was clearly unaware that Barkhad was loose again. This must have been the evidence that instigated the investigation from the CDF. So, who are Barkhad's associates?
True Way, mostly. Although it's been impossible to document. Look into a True Way operative named Movan. He often works with Barkhad.
Well, just a hunch. But the True Way have been recently trying to cozy up to the Dominion, as evidenced by previous missions we have undertaken. And the Dominion possess a certain flair for infiltration. For now, let's chase up on Antos's lead on Movan. Ah, there are no Cardassian files on Movan, so I guess he's never been arrested for anything? We can check in with Surgeon, but he's got nothing to offer on this subject, nor does Antos. No more than the name, it seems. Instead, let's return to the research terminal and look into Barkhad, starting with his arrest history. Charged with the destruction of property by Gul Antos, charge dropped due to lack of evidence. Intent to burglary, arrested by Antos. dropped due to lack of evidence. Obstruction of justice, arresting Officer Gul Antos, charges dropped due to a lack of evidence. And 28 similar incidences. Barkhad seems to be clever enough to orchestrate situations where he's never directly tied to True-Way activities. No wonder Antos was so pleased with himself for finally getting him. In fact, there's even a notation in the records that Antos has been the primary arresting officer in the majority of Barkhad's alleged offences, and a note saying it's unclear why Antos has been targeting the man. As for Movan, still no data, except that he frequented Quarks on DS9 around the 2380s. Although there are no Cardassian files on Movan, it seems that Quark has at some point in the last decade or so supplied Starfleet with his own stash of information on the comings and goings of notable patrons. I wonder if this was part of some deal Quark had to leverage his way out of. Now we can access Quark's files on Movan, and we find a rather thorough, if excessively descriptive and slightly gossipy, dossier on the man. Wait, not a man, a changeling. Movan seems to have a bit of a temper and a lot of latinum, so Quark tolerates him. This far from confirms anything though, so let's brush up on what we know of changelings. The cellular structure is known as a morphogenic matrix. The longest lifespan we know of is around 200 years, but probably a lot longer, and there is currently no known way to identify a changeling without a blood test. Basically, removing a segment or blood sample from a changeling forces it to revert back to its liquid state and attempts to re-merge with the larger body. That's not something we can test on a video. Instead, let's get Antos to have another look at the video. Maybe he can see some inconsistencies.
I told you it wasn't me. But even if that's true, how can we prove it? I know, let me watch the video again. I thought I saw something odd before, and now that I know this... Aha! Look there. In the video, the fake me is firing his phaser with the right hand. Normally that would be correct, but in this case it's impossible. According to the encrypted timecode on this video, I was still recovering from an injury suffered in the previous campaign. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't use my right hand for anything. Go ahead, check out the medical records. It's all there.
Alright then, with Gul Surjan's permission, the medical records should be readily accessible. Gul Antos was injured in a console explosion on Stardate 86346.22. Antos's right hand was severely burned and sustained multiple fractures. Cellular regeneration was ineffective, so he was ordered to report to the Okendek Medical Facility on Cardassia Prime for rehabilitation and treatment. Records indicate that he was removed from duty for 6 days. Well, it's good to know that it's not just Starfleet consoles that can overload and explode, but this, along with the rest of the additional evidence we've compiled, strongly implies that he was set up by Movan and Barkhad. It's likely, with Barkhad's history of avoiding incarceration, that he orchestrated his own capture to then be able to frame Gul Antos. We have motive in the form of Barkhad swearing revenge on Antos for the Cardassian captain's vendetta against the True-Way supporter. The means of setting up the framing in the form of the True-Way's affiliation with the rogue sect of changelings, and the opportunity being Antos's time spent off-duty in the last campaign due to medical reasons, where his movements and plans were his own at the time. While still not solid proof, we have discounted the suspected True-Way tech as harmless. The transmission that had been made is unaltered, but can't have been sent from Antos's ship, as alleged, and, like with the video evidence, a changeling could easily replicate Antos's voice. Considering his history with the True-Way and the loss of his family to one of their raids, I strongly doubt Gul Antos would collaborate. The framing was very well executed, just the smallest details out of place. They used the correct type of Cardassian starship, but missed the 4 Hz hum found only in Antos's prototype deflector, a device not even used in current design anymore. And although they timed the jailbreak to coincide with Antos's own leave, Movan didn't replicate the injury he would have sustained. And the final piece is Gul Surjan. Antos himself admits that any other Gul would have resorted to force far quicker than Surjan did. It was their ties as commander and protege that tempered Surjan's actions. We report our findings to Gul Surjan, and tell him all the evidence against Antos is suspect at best.
Agreed. Based on your findings, I have no doubt that Antos is innocent. The Cardassian Defense Force thanks you for exonerating one of its most prized officers. And on a personal note, I thank you as well. Please give Antos the good news. I will prepare a formal report for my superiors. Again, thank you, Captain.
Thank you, Captain. Without your help, my crew and I would surely be dead. I will not forget these actions here today. I can only hope that someday I can repay the favor. Well, maybe not exactly in this way. You know what I mean.
Antos will likely still have to return along with Gul Surjan for debrief, and although exonerated, now he faces a continued effort to bring in his own nemesis, who once again has slipped away. Surjan seems relieved that things have ended peacefully too. Our intervention was necessary to avoid bloodshed, as Antos's own stubbornness prevented him from backing down, and Surjan was faced with the frustrating choice of firing on his old superior, a man he deeply respected, or return with a mission failure. Cardassians are a very proud people, but we're still left with one mystery to solve. We were brought here by chance. A passing cadet overheard an encrypted distress signal and decoded it, passing the information on to us. Yet when we get into orbit, both ships were here in a heated debate and on the verge of firing, neither confirming who sent the signal. So, who called for our help? Was it Surjan? See, the distress call wasn't an open one either, it was hidden and quiet. Although broadcast in orbit of a Federation world means that any transmission will likely be picked up eventually, it wasn't a direct hail. No one called the Federation. Well, we know he was sympathetic to Antos's position, but unwilling to let it interfere with his orders. Ever the professional, he couldn't risk the safety of Cardassia for his gut instincts, so perhaps a sly call for assistance from a neutral party would resolve the conflict without violence, and after all, it was Surjan who wished Antos to come along peacefully, initially, and despite having the advantage in a firefight, he never did open fire. Or was it Gul Antos? He could have led his pursuers into orbit of Bajor and sent a call for aid, but why so cryptically? He was willing to cooperate, being the first to agree to beam over to negotiate, as if us arriving was part of his plan. And he is very prideful, so maybe he simply didn't want to appear to be asking the Federation for help in a Cardassian matter. While not opposed to the United Federation of Planets, many older Cardassians are still shaking off the remnants of a more xenophobic way of life. A cryptic call for help keeps up his stubborn and controlled appearance, despite genuinely being in a time of need. But you can attribute the same qualities to Gul Surjan, who was rather open about his desire to see Antos proven innocent, but likewise presented a standoffish attitude. Either way, we were able to help investigate the case with a more detached approach, and things worked out for the best. The CDF gets to keep one of its most experienced officers, and Surjan doesn't have to deal with the shadow over his career that a guilty Antos would have cast. Besides, they have work to do now. And so do we. Thanks for watching this episode of the Star Trek Online story series, and I hope to see you next time for our continuing adventures as we explore its ever-expanding narrative and navigate the Cardassian struggle story arc. A quick shout out to Law, Tyr and Mushu who helped put this episode together. Thanks again. I've been Rick and I hope to see you next time.